Ronaldo's Manchester United debut. The weight of number 7. It's August 16th, 2003, and the sun beats down on Old Trafford, a cathedral of football where legends have walked and dreams have been forged. The stands hum with anticipation, a restless sea of red waiting for the Premier League's opening act. Manchester United against Bolton Wanderers. On the bench sits an 18-year-old boy, his dark hair slicked back, his frame still lean from a childhood of scarcity. His name is Cristiano Ronaldo dos Santos Aveiro, a kid from Madeira who, just days ago, was kicking a ball in Lisbon's heat. Now, he's here, clutching a red jersey with a number that carries the ghosts of giants. 7. George Best wore it. Eric Cantona owned it. David Beckham made it sing. And today, this teenager, barely a man, steps into its shadow, his debut a quiet tremor that will soon shake the world. This isn't just a game. It's a beginning, raw and heavy, where a boy from nothing meets a legacy too big to hold. Against Bolton, in a 4-0 win, he'd take his first steps, but beneath the cheers lies a story of doubt, fire, and a weight no one could see. Ronaldo's journey to this moment isn't paved with gold. It's scratched from dirt. 6 years earlier, he'd left Madeira at 12, a skinny dreamer with 2 shirts and a mother's prayers, chasing a trial at Sporting Lisbon. He'd fought through loneliness, patched socks, and a body too small for his ambition, dazzling coaches with barefoot brilliance. By 17, he'd scored twice against Moreirense, a taste of the pro game. Then, August 6, 2003, a friendly against Manchester United, changed it all. He ran United's stars ragged, a green and white blur of speed and swagger, twisting Gary Neville into knots, leaving Rio Ferdinand grasping air. Sign him, the players begged Sir Alex Ferguson on the flight home, and Ferguson, eyes sharp, agreed. On August 12th, Ronaldo signed for £12.24 million, the priciest teenager England had ever seen. Now, for days later, he's in Manchester, a city of grey skies and roaring crowds, far from Madeira's cliffs or Lisbon's warmth. He doesn't speak the language. His English is a jumble of nods and stutters. He doesn't know the streets, the food, the weight of expectation. I was nervous, he'd admit later, voice low, like my stomach was falling. The contract is signed, the ink dry, but Old Trafford isn't home. Not yet. It's a coliseum, and he's a gladiator, young and untested, handed a sword too heavy to lift. Number 7. That number isn't just a digit, it's a myth. George Best, the Belfast magician, danced in it, his flair a wildfire that burned bright and fast. Eric Cantona, the brooding Frenchman, wore it like a crown, his collar up, his will unbreakable. David Beckham, the golden boy who just left for Real Madrid, bent it into free kick art, his face a billboard for a new era. It's not a shirt, a fan once said, it's a throne. And now it's Ronaldo's, passed to him like a torch still smoldering, its heat a quiet thread. I didn't ask for it, he'd say, a faint smile tugging his lips, but I took it. The choice wasn't random. Ferguson saw something, pace, skill, a flicker of defiance, and decided this kid could carry it. He's got the guts, Ferguson told his staff, voice gruff. Let's see if he's got the heart. But guts don't quiet the whispers. In the stands, fans murmur, 12 million for a teenager, replacing Beckham? Too young, they say, too skinny. In the dressing room, veterans like Roy Keane and Paul Scholes eye him, their silence louder than words. I felt it, Ronaldo would recall, like they were all watching, waiting for me to fall. He pulls the shirt on that morning, the red fabric crisp against his skin, the 7 stark and bold. It's heavier than it looks, not the cloth, but the history. I knew Best, Cantona, Beckham. He'd say, big names, big pressure. At 18, he's a boy who's outrun poverty, dodged defenders with a rag ball. But this is different. This is Manchester United, where failure isn't forgiven, where number 7 doesn't bend for the weak. He ties his laces, new boots, not borrowed, and breathes deep. I had to show them. He'd whisper to himself, show me. The match begins. Bolton Wanderers in white against United's red tide. Ronaldo sits on the bench, legs twitching, eyes locked on the pitch. Old Trafford roars, a fortress of 67,000 souls. And he feels it in his chest, a pulse that drowns his thoughts. United dominate early, Scholes pulling strings, Ruud van Nistelrooy prowling the box. The score climbs 1-0, 2-0, and the game feels safe routine. Then, at 60 minutes, Ferguson turns. Ronaldo, he barks, "You're on." The boy stands, heart hammering, and jogs to the sideline. "It was like a dream," he'd say, "but I couldn't wake up." He replaces Nicky, but a workhorse midfielder, and the crowd stirs. A ripple of curiosity, not yet cheers. The scoreboard glows, 2-0. His boots hit the grass, and Old Trafford holds its breath. He's not the Ronaldo of step-overs and bicycle kicks. Not yet. He's raw, unpolished, a colt finding its legs. His first touch is shaky, the ball slipping wide under Bolton's press. A groan ripples through the stands. "Too fancy," someone shouts, and he hears it, feels it like a slap. But he doesn't shrink, he runs. Minutes tick by, and Ronaldo finds his rhythm. A pass from Giggs, a quick turn. He's off, darting down the right wing, Bolton's defender scrambling. His speed, God, that speed, cuts through a reminder of the sporting friendly that brought him here. He flicks the ball past Anthony Barnes, a flash of green memory, and charges toward the box. "I felt free," he'd recall, "like it was my street again." He doesn't score. Van Nistelrooy does, tapping in a rebound. But Ronaldo's run sparks it, a ripple that grows. 3-0. The crowd shifts, murmurs turn to claps. He tries again, a step over on Kevin Nolan, a twist that leaves the Bolton man stumbling. Too much, Keane growls from midfield, but Ronaldo doesn't hear or doesn't care. He's playing his game, the one he learned on Madeira's cracks, the one that dazzled Ferguson. A cross flies, high wild, but it's close, and the fans lean forward. He's got something. A voice in the stand says something mad. Another goal follows, 4-0. Scholes this time, but Ronaldo's there, buzzing, a pest Bolton can't swat. 30 minutes. That's all he gets, but it's enough to hint, not prove. The whistle blows, United triumphant, and Ronaldo walks off, sweat-soaked, chest heaving. "I didn't score," he'd say later, "but I felt them watching. Them, the fans, the press, the ghosts of 7. The headlines next day are kind, but cautious. New boy shows promise, The Guardian writes, flashy but frail. The fans aren't sold. Some cheer, some scoff. Beckham's gone, one grumbles, and we get this kid? At 18, he's a spark, not a flame, and Old Trafford doesn't crown sparks, it tests them. Back in the dressing room, he's quiet. Keane's glare cuts, too many tricks, not enough grit. Scholes nods, a rare approval, but it's fleeting. Ferguson pulls him aside. "Good start," he says, voice firm, but less dancing, more doing. Ronaldo nods, swallowing the sting. "I knew I had to learn," he'd reflect fast. That night, alone in his new flat, bare walls, a single bed, he replays every touch, every miss. "I wasn't them yet," he'd whisper, best Cantona Beckham. The number 7 hangs in his closet, a challenge he can't escape. The debut isn't a fairy tale, it's a baptism. Premier League football isn't sporting's gentle rhythm. It's fast, brutal, unforgiving. Bolton's a taste, tackles fly, elbows jab, and Ronaldo's slight frame takes hits. "I'd fall," he'd say, and they'd laugh. His English falters, teammates shout, he nods blankly. Off the pitch, life's harder. Manchester's rain soaks him, its food tastes wrong, its loneliness bites. "I missed home," he'd confess, "my mom, my island." Maria calls, her voice crackling through the line. "You're enough, Cristiano." But is he? The 7 weighs more than Bolton's defense. Best's flair, Cantona's steel, Beckham's precision. They loom, shadows he can't outrun. "People expected miracles," he'd say, "and I was just me." At 18, he's no prodigy polished. He's a kid who's outrun poverty, yes, but not doubt. Every step over is a risk, every sprint a plea. "See me. I wanted to prove it," he'd recall, "not just wear it." That debut, 30 minutes, no goals, doesn't crown him. It plants him, a seed in Old Trafford soil, fragile but fierce. August 16th, 2003, ends 4-0, a win United expect, but Ronaldo's mark is subtle. A flicker of pace, a hint of flair, a boy daring to dance where legends stood. It wasn't perfect, he'd say, but it was mine. The crowd files out, some intrigued, some unmoved. Ferguson sees more potential, not polish. He'll grow, he tells his staff. Give him time. Scholes later admits, we saw it then, something special. This isn't the Ronaldo of Ballon d'Ors or hat tricks. Not yet.